So coming up to the main stage is Loren McDonald. He comes to us all the way from San Francisco. He started with Silverpop back in the day, and of course Silverpop was acquired by IBM Watson, so that's where he works now. And in his role right now, he supports agencies like Drum, so we work with Loren on strategy and implementation. So we're going to bring him up, and he's got a great talk that I think everyone will enjoy. So come on up, Loren.
Fox approached IBM and they said, well, we have this movie coming out. It's called Morgan. So we thought, let's send Watson to film school.
Morgan was our little breakthrough.
Skip, don't go in there, okay?
Don't what?
Don't you go down there, Skip.
Don't be afraid, Amy. I have to go say goodbye to Mother.
Here you have the whole of the Morgan movie, and you can see where action is taking place.
Watson is the tool that's helping arrange the visuals, but it still needs the human element. So then I could come in and just supervise the creative aspect of it.
It's still very difficult to think of how a computer might be capable of original thought, something that's essential in creativity.
My God. We're going to be replaced. It's going to be the zombie apocalypse. We're all out of jobs, right? Let's just end it right now. All right. Sorry, are we awake? All right, all right. I forgot to warn the AV guy that I might do that. I warned him of everything else, but it's great to be here. Good morning. I love to open with that Morgan trailer video because I think in 60 seconds it explains the role that AI and machine learning is going to have for all of you in sort of the marketing and creative world. So if you go back, if you're actually paying attention to it, you know, when you think about where we're going with AI and machine learning, and actually I took this slide out, but just so everybody knows the difference between AI and machine learning, AI is the umbrella, so it includes things like robotics and natural language processing, the image recognition. It's basically just the umbrella term for everything. Machine learning is a subset of that, where the machines basically look at patterns and learn from each other over time. So anyway, I saved 2 slides for that. But the point is when you think about these machines and you think about Watson editing that video, if you remember, the first thing it had to do was train Watson, right? So when we think about machine learning, the machines, I like to describe them, are kind of like a 1-year-old or something, where they have a brain, they have the ability to think, but they don't have context, they don't have knowledge, they actually don't know what to do with it. So when we talk about any kind of machine learning-based system, the machines have to be taught. And so that's what you're seeing in the marketing world, right, where we're feeding marketing content into the machines to have them understand it. That's what we, you know, a year and a half ago, Watson, as an example, knew nothing about marketing. Now he is learning about it. But the same thing you saw in sort of the video, where they fed literally 100 different horror movies into Watson, so Watson could look at the patterns and understand sort of how a thriller movie sort of works and stuff. And then from that, it figures out sort of where it thinks like the sort of the key exciting points are, et cetera. Then they fed the actual Morgan movie into it and basically instructed it to how to build a 60-second trailer video. But what you saw was there were sort of 2 key takeaways you heard from the editor. One is that what it did is it took what is normally like a 30-day process of actually editing down a movie into sort of that bite-sized chunk. And the second thing was that, and it took that down to about 24 hours. And so that's the power of machines, right? They had ability to sort of crunch and speed high volumes of data. The second thing, though, you heard, sort of the most important thing was that the film editor still had that creative oversight, right? And so that's sort of point 1 that I want you to sort of think about today as we go through this, and I'll talk sort of more about it. But you know, key thing to think about is that it's not going to take your job away. We'll talk a bit more about that. But this really is what this trend is about, where AI and machine learning are going, is to enable you to do better and more exciting things. I found this matrix from the smart people over at PricewaterhouseCoopers last year, and I love using it because I think it really conveys these sort of 2 areas where each of you in this room are going to use AI and machine learning-based tools in your job going forward. The one is the obvious one, which is the idea of better targeting, right? That sort of dream of one-to-one communication where the machines can go through and find patterns in your customer database and figure out who's the best customers, the target, the right timing, the right content, et cetera. Creating those better experiences. The machines are going to be able to help us with that. The second piece that we're actually really excited about at IBM Watson Marketing is the idea of enabling each of you to be more efficient. That idea that we saw about on the Morgan trailer video where it took 30 days down to 24 hours, right? So the ability to basically automate sort of boring fundamental tasks, if you will. So what I thought I'd do is sort of bring this to life with a couple of examples, some IBM, some not. This first one, it's from a company based out of London called Phrasee. But how many people in the room have ever written a marketing subject line? Raise your hand. Okay, pretty much look around, almost all of you. Now, how many of you in this room think you're really frickin' good at it? One, right. You're buying the beers. So I've asked this question in about 20 cities over the last 18 months, and the most out of like 500 people in Detroit, 7 people raised their hand, but it's usually a couple people. That's sort of interesting, right? It's a fundamental basic task of digital marketing, right, is writing subject lines. But most of you, when you do it, you probably have sort of this sort of pattern you've done. If you go back and you look at your previous subject lines that you've written, maybe you have kind of like a template approach of, right, of where you put the offer and the product name or whatever it is that you're marketing and stuff. And you find, okay, what's worked in the past, and you write it. Maybe you come up with 2 or 3 or 4 different sort of variables and stuff. The reality is that there are potentially billions of combinations of the length, the characters, you put symbols in it, the tone, right? Offer, no offer, urgency, etc. Right? There's literally could be potentially billions of combinations of any different subject line. But each of us in this room could probably only realistically come up with sort of a half a dozen in sort of the time that we have. And so this is a really simple example of where AI-based tools are going to sort of empower you sort of going forward. So this idea that literally this tool from Phrasee can actually go through and understand your business, your culture. So one of the things that they do, again, this human element, is they have 2 linguists on staff that go through and interview the brand managers and understand, are you a serious company? Can you use humor? Can you swear? Are you very offer-oriented or not, right? Like they understand, they basically program the machine, give it those bookends about what it can do or not. But then the power of the machine learning and the AI understanding language and stuff comes up with multiple different combinations of subject lines in this case. Again, a really sort of simple, basic example, but I wanted to sort of show how sort of our day-to-day jobs where it's going to impact. And this is one of their Virgin Trains UK clients. And you can see the lift that they see over humans can be anywhere from very tiny to sort of really pretty significant. But I like sharing this example because I think it's something that everybody can sort of relate to, that here is the simple power of AI and machine learning, of basically being able to take a simple task like writing subject lines and do it better and faster than us, almost 100% of the time. Another example is, this is what we call the Watson Content Hub. So this is actually the AI part of AI and machine learning, if you will, in that a big part of AI. So if, when you upload a photo onto Facebook, it'll auto tag you, right? That is a core AI capability of image recognition. So we're excited about this. Watson actually, so let's say whether you're a brand in the room or you're the folks at Drum or whatever, and you have tens of thousands of image assets, right? You can upload that and it'll read them and auto tag it. And if you look closely and stuff, you can see, again, it's sort of training. So it looks at that, whatever Patagonia jacket it is and thinks it's a sweater. It's not, obviously. And you exit out and you're training it, right? So over time, it gets smarter and smarter. You can program it with your own lexicon and stuff. So you're actually training to use, like, if you have your own sort of vocabulary, if you will, about how you describe things and stuff. So again, if you're dealing with large volumes of, in this case, sort of image assets, the machines are going to be able to, basically save you time in something as fundamental as tagging. So I decided to use this one because we're in Atlanta. How many people have been to the Georgia Aquarium? A lot of local people, like, wow, almost all of you. So amazing experience. We actually held back when we were Silver Pop, we held one of our client summits there. So I was able to go there and check it out. It's a very cool place. But so if you've been there, one of the things you know about an amusement type business like Georgia Aquarium, the key to their business is, like most any business, is repeat customers. And one of the things that's different about Georgia Aquarium is they have different levels of membership programs. So it's critical that they get you to not just come and check out the aquarium, but you actually join up. In essence, you invest in the Georgia Aquarium and become a member, and they have different levels of membership. Keeping those members, right, year after year, getting people to renew their memberships is absolutely critical to growing their business, if you will. And so one of the things that they do is they use our Watson Marketing Insights tool, which allows them to basically ingest everything that they know about their customers. And then the machine, I keep saying the machine because that's what they are, but basically goes through and looks and finds the patterns across their customers and sort of looks for those sort of different behaviors or lack of behaviors, and is able to identify and predict which of those customers, those members of Georgia Aquarium, it thinks are not going to renew, right? So it goes through, it sees that behavior and predicts, okay, these 1,700 people are likely not going to renew in the next 60 days or whatever it is. Takes that, sends it over to what we now call Watson Campaign Automation, the old Silver Pop, as a segment, and you're able to then build out a campaign, whether it's email, SMS, mobile push notifications, whatever it is. But so again, the idea is using these machines to uncover those patterns, in this case to predict churn, and then able to sort of act on it.
So how does this drop compare to all campaigns over the past year?
This campaign is ranked 238 out of 250 campaigns over the past year.
Amazing. So straight away, just as I thought, he's found out that this campaign, this drop, is ranked 238 out of 250. So there's clearly a problem with this that we need to go and have a look at. So let's ask him. What metrics did you use to calculate this?
Here are the metrics used.
Excellent. So this is familiar to any marketer. Okay, Watson. How is it trending?
The performance rank of this campaign is trending down.
So this is Watson Assistant. We've launched this a couple of months ago to all of our clients across the Watson Campaign Automation, and we're actually launching Watson Assistant throughout multiple industries, healthcare industries, basically every industry where we have technology solutions. So we're really excited about this because, as you can see, this is the future of how you're going to use, in your case, marketing technology. The interface is going to become like this, where you'll actually just be talking to, in our case, Watson, or you can type to it. And basically, what a tool like Watson is going to be able to do is take care of and handle those sort of more boring, menial, low-value tasks. So we have grand visions for it. Today, we've sort of referred to the Watson Assistant as like an intern. So as you saw here, basically you can ask it questions. What was my highest performing campaign in the last 6 months? Give me benchmarks. How do we compare to other companies in our industry? What was my best performing subject line in the last 6 months? What is the sentiment of subject? So these sort of, they're not sort of rocket scientist-like kind of tasks. They're real sort of basic things you might give an intern or just sort of one of your junior staff members to sort of run these sort of reports and numbers and stuff like that. Over time, as Watson gets smarter and smarter and we take it up a notch, we ultimately think that it'll be able to actually make decisions and execute campaigns for you and stuff, but we're probably 2 or 3 years away from that. But right now, we're really excited about it. We're getting a lot of great feedback from clients in that it's, at one level, it's saving some time, right? It might save you a few minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. But more interestingly, what it's doing is it's uncovering, like when you ask it for a particular report or something, you as a human might sort of struggle to find it or know exactly what to ask the system or whatever it is, but it knows that Watson knows how to find it, but it might actually bring back data in reports that you might not have thought of asking. So it has the ability to sort of add additional value and finding additional information. So it's, we're seeing it as it's not just sort of a time-saving, sort of automating task, but there's sort of additional insight that's coming out of this as well. The other thing that was interesting, if you heard the British chap, I cut this part out as he was talking, he used the term drop, right, which is what the Brits call, a campaign and stuff. And what you didn't hear in here is when he actually first asked Watson, tell me what the highest performing drop was or whatever it was, Watson says, I don't know what a drop is. And so he literally on the fly trained Watson. A drop is the same as a campaign. And Watson literally learned, on the fly and was then able to go, okay, drop equals campaign, go back and find those campaigns. So it's the ability, again, to sort of train over time. So what does all of this mean to you in this room? So, it's interesting. I've been talking a lot on this talk the last 18 months, 2 years and stuff, and sort of how I sort of convey it is sort of evolving. I sort of started a lot with kind of this fear idea, and I'm sort of really moving away from that because people are sort of getting it now. But there still is a lot of unknown. I was on a panel last week in San Francisco on AI and machine learning, and there was about 50, 60 people in the audience. And the opening question was, what do we think marketers, what are their expectations of AI and machine learning and stuff? And I asked the audience, how many of you know what the difference between AI and machine learning was? And 4 people out of 60 raised their hand. And so that's when I sort of realized that we still are at kind of the early stages for all of you even understanding what we're sort of talking about. But more importantly, how can we use this? How can we take advantage of it? And let's get out of sort of the fear aspect. So I don't think it's going to take your jobs, unless, of course, you let it take your job. What I do think we're going to see is that it's going to open up a lot of exciting new opportunities for you. So some of those things, like I mentioned, those sort of menial tasks, like if you have people on your staff that download a CSV file from a marketing solution, create a pretty chart and upload it, give it to a brand manager or something like that, the machine's going to be able to do that for your managers and executives and stuff who can sort of get it on their own or ask questions and sort of get better results. So some of the things, the jobs won't necessarily disappear, but part of what you do will probably shift to other things, and that's the exciting part. So I think there's 3 key roles that are going to emerge in the future. One is this hated term that we all hear nonstop from all of the big consultancies and everybody, which is digital transformation. But putting it aside as a buzzword, if you think about where we're going, where more and more of what we do as marketers is leveraging the machines and the technology, we have to change our processes. We have to change the people we hire and the training and stuff, and I'll come back to that. So I do think that most of you don't have people in your organization today. You will at some point start to hire or work with consultancies or agencies like Drum to help you make that digital transformation, because it isn't just a buzzword. It really is fundamentally you have to change lots of aspects of your organization. The second thing is really kind of interesting is machine oversight. So if you think back to my opening with the Morgan trailer video and the editor, right, that editor in essence was the machine oversight, right? They directed the machine. What movies do we put into it, right? Because really the fundamental thing you need to understand about machine learning is the machines can only act on, make decisions, process what you put into it, right? They are not all seeing. They can't see data that they don't have. So fundamentally, one of the most important things that's going to differentiate how each of you in this room's organizations are successful with this technology going forward is how you're able to sort of gather the information and data and how you train and feed the machines, if you will. So machine oversight, I don't know what the job title is going to be called going forward, but that's kind of how I refer to it. And the last one, which George touched on, is data integration, which I think is fundamentally,
It shows us new possibilities and challenges us to pursue them.
right. got to unbutton it one more here. AI gives you superpowers, right? Can everybody see that over here, right? All right. I'll spare you unbuttoning any further. All right. All right, here. It was easier when I did this in Seattle a couple weeks ago where I had the Britney Spears over-the-ears microphone on and it didn't interact with this. But at any rate, so, you know, many of you in the room are probably going, yeah, this is great. I don't believe it or whatever it is. And I don't want to overplay the superpowers idea. That was obviously I'm just sort of having fun with it. But fundamentally, what is this technology going to allow you to do differently or better going forward, right? And we've talked about a lot of it. It's pretty obvious. You know, fundamentally, the machines can do things better and faster in a lot of cases than we can. So find those hidden insights about your customers, right? Make sense of large amount of data. Many of you have data scientists and stuff, and they're not going to go away either. They're going to become more important because they're the ones that are sort of working with and managing machines. But their jobs are going to be easier because they're going to have more power sort of behind that. Finding those new customer segments and things like the Georgia Aquarium example, right? Again, automating repetitive tasks. You know, again, I keep coming back to the Watson trailer video. I love sort of the example of the empowerment of that editor, that it didn't take away from him, it allowed him to be more efficient and actually be more creative. And ultimately saving time is going to be what we think is going to be one of the key things that's valued to each of you. And so how do we get these superpowers? Again, organization, process, and data. So the first thing is, and again, George touched on this, if there's anything I want you to take away from today is sort of an action item of what does this mean to me in my job, in my organization, the single most important thing is around data and data integration. So it's partly what George talked about of just we need to, our customers are telling us that we have to understand them better as individuals. More importantly, each of you in this room, in order to achieve that dream of one-to-one sort of marketing and stuff and to enable the machines to empower us to find what is the right time, the right message, et cetera, and the right customers to target, you have to get close as possible to that 360-degree view, which means you have to work with IT. You need to be able to get them to give you the data they want. Point of sale data, right? All of that data that we're struggling to get from the different channels, those companies that are able to knock down those barriers and get the data into their systems to be able to have the machines learn and act on it, or they're going to be the winners. And so it's fundamentally, you know, that's why that sort of digital transformation is key. You've got to get into the culture of the organization that silos will no longer work. Your company literally will be at a disadvantage, right? And if you're a public company or whatever on Wall Street, they're going to start to understand those companies that are able to leverage their data and not. Our CEO, Ginny Rometty, spoke at our big conference in Vegas a couple weeks ago and said something that really stuck with me, that data is going to be companies' single biggest competitive advantage going forward, right? Data is your biggest competitive advantage. So if you're going to take away anything from today, you've got to figure out how to get that data into your systems. Secondly, process, right? If the machines are taking over a lot of your manual processes, they're increasingly being part of what you do. You know, it's no longer just if it's Tuesday, we're going to send out a campaign on Thursday to sell 1,000 red shoes, what campaign and creative and stuff. The machines are going to do so much more of that for you. Marketing automation's been around for 10 years. A lot of companies still aren't taking advantage of it, but the power is going to get better, so you have to rethink your processes. You have to rethink the people you hire, their training and stuff, so that they're able to sort of help and take advantage of this greater level of automation and AI. And I didn't actually sort of realize this, that the theme for this conference was whole brain marketing, which I think lines up really well with a concept I came up with a couple years ago when I was doing a lot of writing about this, and I came up with the concept of center brain marketing. And whether you agree that we have left or right brain activity, I subscribe to it and like it. That most of us in this room, I'm going to be stereotypical and think that most of us in this room are probably right brain leaning. Maybe not. A lot of you are probably, you know, data analysts or whatever, which are on the other side. But the point being is that going forward, you're going to have to tap into that other part of your brain. So if you're right brain, you're going to have to start to understand technology better, have to be more analytical. I like to use the example of you don't have to know how to make an API call, right? But you have to know how to talk to your IT people to understand why they need to make the APIs, build the APIs to connect with your internal data or different technology platforms. You have to be able to talk their language so that they can take advantage of it. But those left brain analytical IT people don't get off the hook either, right? They have to understand why consumers pay $200 more for a smartphone made by Apple versus one that's an Android, right? Because they don't understand that. Why would somebody pay more for the same stupid phone, right? So they have to understand, they have to change as well. But I think this sort of going forward, again, is going to be really key when we think about who you hire, how you train people, that we have to get all of us out of our comfort zones and leverage those other sides of our brains. So in sort of wrapping up, what does this mean? How do we get started? So don't think of it as the latest fad. It's going to go away in a couple of years. This is the future, right? This is like autonomous cars. It's not sort of a question if, it's just a matter of when. I think that's going to take longer than many people think, but that's a different story. But fundamentally, don't just jump on this because a technology vendor or whatever says, hey, we have a new AI-powered marketing tool. Start with an understanding what are business problems, not just marketing challenges at your company, but what are core business problems? And then think about, can AI and machine learning tools actually help us solve that, right? And is there going to be a powerful ROI with that? So develop out those sort of KPIs, have 6, 9, 12, 18-month measurable goals. So if you do move down the path, even if it's something like that Phrasey subject line tool, it costs money. So make sure you set, okay, the lift from using a tool like that has to generate X millions in revenue or whatever it is. And so you can measure it and come back and see if it actually made sense to move forward. So in closing, the real danger is not that computers will begin to think like humans, but that humans will begin to think like computers. Thank you very much.